comme ça. Sun comes out. Oh, na 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 na. Got our toes in the sand and we run to the sun.
Hello and welcome to Lawyerish, a podcast for the people. Lawyerish is a safe space to learn, grow, inspire, and be inspired. So come along and ride on this fantastic voyage. I'm Brandon J Wallace, Esquire, and I'll be your captain. It's a whole vibe, and I sure am glad you're here. Lawyerish is brought to you by Apex, where aptitude meets excellence. Powered by the Green Law Firm, your one-stop shop for everything real estate in Tennessee and Mississippi. Our voyage vibe today is brought to us by Poppy Rose. The song is called Belima. Sorry. It's written by our friend and previous Lawyerish guest, Dennis Johnson, also known as Lashley. The new song, what do y'all think? Is it a no or a go? It's a go for me. Anything with a Caribbean vibe, a soca vibe. Love to know what you all think. I'm excited to be back in the chair and back in the mix with you. We've got a really exciting episode this week. It's real estate focused. It's going to be a long one. Hopefully not too long, though. We're going to be on time. So let's get right into it. Let's not waste any time. All right, friends, we're back. It's time for Duly Noted. I want to welcome my new friend, Ms. Kaye Thompson. She is the principal realtor broker at Best Real Estate Company. She's got more than 10 years experience in the real estate business, and I've asked her to come and chat with me about this NAR settlement, this National Association of Realtors settlement that's taking place. Kaye, welcome. Glad to have you on.
I'm happy to be here.
Friends, Kaye and I met just this past weekend at a church. She spoke on a panel. She's one of the key members and past presidents of the Women's Council of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, and she was on a panel called "Let the Church Say Amen." Really great panel. It was a great opportunity to learn from her and some others about increasing home ownership particularly in the Black community in Memphis, and working through our church network to do that. So she's committed to public service, committed to this real estate game, and she knows her stuff. And so I've asked her to come on and chat with me about it. Thanks again for being here, Kaye, and welcome. Now, Kaye,
my pleasure.
Before we get into the nitty gritty of it, because I really want to get your opinion and pick your brain, I think most of our listeners, if they're like me, they've heard about this settlement, proposed settlement, because it's not done yet, but they may not know all the details about it, and so you're going to help us kind of unpack that a little bit. But first, I just want to share with the audience about what it is or what happened. So what has happened here is. There's been this lawsuit filed by the Department of Justice, the U.S. Department of Justice, against the National Association of Realtors. Now, why would they do that? Now, there's something going on around this competition piece. The DOJ is arguing that NAR is facilitating barriers basically to competition, and so basically they brought this lawsuit. They said. That NAR is prohibiting multiple listing services, MLSs, from disclosing to prospective buyers the amount of commission that the buyer brokers will earn if the buyer purchases a home listed in the MLS system. Really, it's all about the NAR's commission concealment rules. They got a real problem with that, is what the DOJ is saying. One of the things that the NRA, what they're saying the NAR does, is it misleads buyers, thinking that, makes buyers thinking, it makes buyers think that the broker services are free, when in actuality, the broker buyers work off commission. Additionally, they argue that the MLS listings are based on the level of buyer broker commission, right? That they're showing that, but they're excluding the lower commission properties, right? I mean, I'm hoping that you can help unpack this a little bit, Kay. I'm doing a terrible job, but help me understand. And I think one of the other main things is they say that the NAR limits access to the lock boxes so that only their realtors can have access to them and not others. And so basically the DOJ says that these are unfair practices and they're impacting home buyers. And so they've got a settlement. They sued, and so now there is a proposed settlement in place that's waiting on a court approval. What I'm asking is help me understand, and I am totally lost, but it's important to the field. I think you can help us unpack it. What can you do? What can you tell us?
Yes, I can definitely help you unpack it. So first, the idea that agents were not disclosing to the buyer that they could be responsible for paying agent fees is actually not true. I want to start by saying that what they're asking us to do, in essence, has always been the case. For as long as I've been a real estate agent, we have been instructed by our state laws to disclose to our clients what the commission will be. What has happened is because so many agents have gotten used to just getting their payment from the listing agent. So that's really what the issue is. The buyer agent and the listing agent currently are the two parties who are making the decision regarding who's getting paid what commission. The listing agent makes the deal with the seller. The listing agent should be telling the seller if they're going to choose to share a portion of that commission with a buyer's agent. And I am hard pressed to find an agent who doesn't disclose that to their client. It's also in their paperwork. At least it is for the 5 states that I'm licensed in. There is a section in our listing agreement, if we're using a listing agreement that was prepared by our state association's attorneys, that, this is what my commission is going to be if I list your house for sale. And then this is what's going to be the amount that I'm going to pay a buyer's agent. So in essence, what they're really asking us to do is just what they've been asking us to do all along. And
it sounds like what you've been doing all along. I don't know if all the other agents and brokers have been doing that. Would you say
I can't say everybody.
Yeah, right. Right.
But that is the way it is supposed to work.
Sure.
So the listing agent makes makes arrangements for a seller to pay a commission to them, and then they have the option to pay a buyer's agent. Now, where they get in trouble is, and I hate to be the one to say this, but there is, in any industry, certain things become a standard without someone actually saying it's a standard. So people who come into something where a practice has already kind of been identified and laid out, you know what I mean? They just kind of go along with what is already existing. And so where you have a lot of agents being upset is, I believe that the Department of Justice used the idea of per se. You're an attorney, you know what that means. Where it's just the appearance. You can be found guilty of something if it appears that you're doing it. So I can not speak for every single real estate professional in America, but if most of them are charging 6%, you know what I'm saying, to their seller, then for commissions, then the appearance that they're colluding is there.
Do you think that's what it is? I mean,
I do. I have never had a situation where agents actually colluded to increase their commissions by doing something detrimental to the seller. I'm not saying, or the buyer, and I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm saying that has never been my experience in the 10 years that I've been in practice as a real estate agent. What I can say, though, is I am a discount agent. So I have heard in the field where someone said, hey, this person, I would love to list with you. I love your rate. But I spoke to this other agent and they said a discounted agent doesn't have the same level of connections that I have. They don't use the same marketing tools that I have. And so I need to go with them because of that. Or they may say, I love that you're offering me a discount, but I need to go with this person who's charging me 6% because they said, if I don't do that, if I don't put 3% in the MLS for a buyer's agent, they're not going to show my property. So there are instances where people have done the wrong thing, but the majority of us are really just following the standard that was set by the people who came before us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think now maybe that speaks to, why there is some effort to, sort of unify the efforts or streamline the rules or of some sort. Maybe that's why that there's been some effort to get to this settlement place, right? There's a settlement, a proposed settlement of something like $400 million, $413 million, something like that, as I understand it. And I think majorly the other part is that you got the settlement, and then you've got this effort to do things differently or to streamline, to mandate how things are moving forward. Can you talk to that? How do you think this settlement, if approved by the court, because it's still got to be approved by the court, I think DOJ still has an opportunity to object if they're waiting to and they have an opportunity to object or to say more, to add some feedback, but really it's going to come down to whether or not the court approves it. But should it be approved by the court and go forward, how do you think that's going to impact the field?
I do believe that. So I'm a realtor, but I'm also a realtist. So I help those people who are in a situation where they may not be able to pay 6% to have a buyer's agent represent them. I do think it's going to cause some shift in income for agents because they are going to have to speak to their value more now than they did in the past. I do believe that there have been some agents out there who have been doing things such as, trying to restrict agents who choose not to be a member of the National Association of Realtors from accessing properties through key boxes. I know that because I worked as one of those agents, and I had that happen to me in my own market here, and I've actually had to use the law in order to be able to get access for my clients to see properties. So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, and I say that because I've worked on both sides of the situation. I do think that there is a lot of things, and I'm not trying to knock NAR, but I just think sometimes their presence is so overpowering that it does take away from the agent's ability to see the law, which is what they really should be running their business according to, and not just the rules, whether spoken, written, unspoken, or unwritten, that have come about as a part of this culture that NAR has created. I don't think that, I feel like I do feel like there are enough agents out there who have a heart like mine who will still help these buyers. I have helped somebody buy a property and then make a dime. I'm not advocating for that, but I'm just saying everybody's situation is different and everybody has a right to negotiate rates with whatever they buy based on what they can afford, what their affordability is. And I just think agents are going to have to really get creative in that. A lot of agents feel like they can only make money in real estate one way, and that's through commissions. I teach my agents a bunch of ways that they can serve their clients and still generate an income, whether they get a commission or not. I think brokers need to be more, they need to get serious about that and showing these people different avenues that they can take. so that they can make up for any income that they may lose. And the other thing is, in my experience, because I have been a discount broker, I have been able to have more consistent commissions, because more people, especially now, are hearing, hey, I can negotiate my fee, and it's not going to affect me in this way. There are also things that I think agents need to realize too, is that there are MLSs out there that are not affiliated with NAR that do have a different set of standards that are just as good. All of those MLSs, their property information and data feeds to Realtor.com, Zillow, and all of that, just like the NAR driven ones. And so those are a resource. I think if NAR allowed us to be more competitive and it was more open, where brokers have the option to choose, what MLS they want to use, how much of the NAR services they want to provide for their agents, then it can make it cheaper for them. You'll find if you go to Facebook or any Emmy News is one where there's always a lot of commentary after big stories. You'll see that there are lots of brokers in our country who feel forced to be a part of NAR. And for a long time, I was one of those brokers. And I'm, like I said, I'm not here to bash them. I don't think that everything that they've done is bad. I just think they kind of got lackadaisical in explaining to people, realtor members, that they should be discussing how we get paid with everyone, instead of just having agents take the easy way out and allowing that and saying, the buyer doesn't pay their agent. You have some agents that argue the buyer does pay with their loan already,
Yeah.
And so you can take that stance and, well, that's why I didn't say anything, but you still should be addressing that if you're a real estate professional, because if they're working out something where you can be paid from that, if their loan amount went up, because you wanted to get 3%, then that adds extra cost to them in the long run. Yeah. So I think it's good that the buyers and the sellers now know that they have an option to negotiate those rates, when at first they felt a lot of constraint to do so.
Yeah. And I think that seems to be the catalyst behind this effort, right, is to protect consumers. And so here's hoping that no matter what comes out of this, that the people are they're informed and empowered in a way that's going to help them to sustain and buy homes, right, and continue to do so. But we certainly appreciate you helping to unpack that for us, and I think we're probably going to have you back on, not only just to talk about your own work, because I really want to spend some time talking about that and what you do in the 5 states that you're in, and the realtors versus a realtor, and what does that all mean. I really want to spend some time unpacking that, but
I would love to share it.
Okay, good. So maybe we'll have you back. We'll do it a second installment of this real estate episode. We clearly need it. There's a lot going on here, and we're still going to be waiting on what's going to happen with this proposed settlement. So all this is really up in the air, and we thank you for helping us to kind of start to wrap our brain around. A lot of work to be done, though. I got to tell you that.
Yes, there is. Well, okay. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, friends, hang tight. That's duly noted. We'll be right back. All right, friends, thanks for hanging tight with me there. We're excited to move to our next portion, which is our lawyerish segment. I don't think we're going to get much more on that subject yet on this NAR business just yet, but we'll delve into it as we move forward. It's now time for lawyerish. I want to get my good friend, my mentor, and our previous highlight guest, Angela Green. She is the person in charge. She is the woman in charge of the Green Law Firm, the one-stop shop for everything real estate in Tennessee and Mississippi. She's also a title agent and handles real estate closing. She's going to walk us through all of this and help explain what she does in the legal field. She's going to explain this portion of the legal field. Once I get my tongue together, I'm going to get it together, Angela. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show, and welcome to the lawyer segment.
Thank you, Brandon. I'm glad to be back.
Excellent.
That was a pretty interesting topic you all just completed.
And this is it's really an I would say earth shattering, because it's not quite that large, but certainly a U.S. shattering potential judgment or settlement that's going to come forth. That's really going to change the game. And I don't know if it's going to impact what you do. I want to get to that shortly, but I think what I want to do first is I'd like to for you to just kind of talk to us about what it is you do at the Green Law Firm, how it is, how do you fit into the real estate or home buying process?
Okay, so we're a real estate closing firm and title insurance agency, and pretty much we come at the end. So we're basically the ones who are, after the house has been chosen, the deal has been made. We're the ones who come in and prepare all the paperwork to make sure everything is legally sound and filed and recorded properly. So we come at the end of the process. So we, as a title agency, we order the title work. Once the title work is ordered, we, as the attorney, I will review it. We're basically looking at the title, making sure that there are no issues or concerns, no liens, debts, judgments, and things going on that will linger, because there are many things that actually attach to real estate. I'll often say this is real estate law is the one area of law that has to have a working knowledge of all the other areas of law. And that's because the other areas impact real estate. So when you're dealing with air property, when you're dealing with judgments, civil judgments, when you're dealing with criminal judgments, when you're dealing with bankruptcy, divorce, all of those things, you have to know how it impacts real estate. And our job as the real estate closing attorney is to make sure that anything that has attached or any concerns concerning the real estate that are left over from the seller, that we make sure all of that is cleaned up, so that when the property is transferred over to the buyer, they are getting good, clean title and ownership to the property. And also making sure that the lender, if there is a lender is involved, that the lender's lien is going to be in first lien position. There's not going to be any liens that are holding over that will basically preclude their lien, just in case there's a default and they have to go to foreclosure. So that's the primary job of a real estate closing firm. But then also, we do get the individuals to sign the paperwork, and we also disperse funds. So we're providing escrow services. Sometimes we have to do some title curative work, which is to clean up some of those old judgments and issues that are going on with the title. So that's title curative. Sometimes we dabble into tax sale redemptions and things of that nature. So drafting of documents, contracts, deeds, warranty deeds, quitclaim deeds, any other types of deeds, trust deeds and things. So anything kind of dealing with real estate, we pretty much try to stay in that area.
So you mean to tell me when you buy a house, you don't just pick the house and write a check and walk away with the keys? That's not how it works?
Not if you're smart.
Right.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but
yeah, because there's a big thing going around now where it's like fraudulent deeds happening, where people are fraudulently selling property that they have no right to, that they don't own. And one of the things that you do in your office does is basically you're preventing that from happening, doing your best to prevent that from happening.
As best we can. That's been a really hot topic here in Shelby County. I remember they did a full show on it, because people have to remember, down at the registrar's office, they're not checking to make sure that it's a legal transfer. They're just checking to make sure that the document is in the proper formatting for the transfer. So someone, that the issue is forged documents, may get put on the big books, which then creates a cloud on the title. So the question is, was that truly forged, or did that individual actually sell the property or quitclaim it? So there are a lot of things that our title company, they press upon us to consider. You have to almost be a little investigator when you're dealing with these deals are coming to you, or when you're looking at the title. You have to ask the right questions. And just kind of think, 2 steps ahead, because sometimes these things are caused just out of ignorance of the law, especially when you're dealing with air property. Many people feel as though, hey, I'm the one who's living in the property. I'm the one who's paying the taxes. I'm the one that's taking care of the property. Therefore, this is my property and I should be able to deal with it however I see fit, not recognizing that doesn't change the fact that you have a brother, you have a sister, and they also have an interest in that property by law. Whether they ever decide to pick up a shovel or pay a bill or anything pertaining to that property, that's just by law. And you can't just unilaterally just write them out by just not mentioning them when it's time to sell the property and that sort of thing. You have to deal with them, and you have to cut the deal and get them to sign off. And so a lot of times that's just out of just ignorance and not really understanding. And they may say that that's not just but that's basically the law.
So the law would not agree, right?
Right. So, right.
And by air property, right, we're not talking about AIR, right? We're talking about HEIR. That is when you inherit a property, when someone inherits a property, that when someone passes away and passes that property on by law, usually without a will. That's where you kind of get into this space where if there's no will, which is, by the way, folks, get a will, right? Get a will in place and make sure that you decide what you want to happen with your property. But when a person does not have a will, that means the state decides how that property is dispersed. And oftentimes the state is not always going to look at who's living there or who pays the property tax. They're going to go by what many states call the chart of consanguinity, right? And so they're going to look at, by statute. So, that's why it's really important that you and I and others, right? If you own property, even if you don't, make sure you have a will in place, because if you don't direct where your assets go, the government will. Absolutely.
Yep. So taking care of that and making those decisions ahead of time is the best thing to do. In this case, time is not on your side. So the longer you wait to handle that business, the more convoluted and difficult it takes, So, we've come across situations where people are wanting to sell the property, and the property is still in grandma and grandpa's name, and both of them have been gone for many decades. And so they have children. Those children have children. Sometimes some of them have passed. Some of the children have passed. They have children. So time is not really on your side when you're dealing with this, because the more people that you have to touch in order to handle the business, the more difficult and convoluted, and people spread out across the country, maybe even across the world, it can really tie your hands. So it's best to deal with it. For you, if you have property, you deal with it at your level to make sure that you know where it's going, and make sure it's going to someone who wants it and who's going to do something with it and take care of it, and make sure that it is disposed properly. It's generational wealth. People don't understand, but it is wealth that's locked away in the property. But it is generational wealth, and you have someone who has to recognize that and be willing to deal with it appropriately.
Yeah, very good. Good counsel there. I hope folks are paying attention to that. Let's take a step back. How'd you get into this particular field of law? How'd you end up here as a sort of real estate attorney? Did you go to law school wanting to do this kind of work?
Actually, I did not. And as you know, law school does not. You don't really specialize in a certain area. You're introduced to all of it, and then as you get closer to graduation, and once you graduate, you start to specialize. So in my particular situation, after graduating from law school and passing the bar, the first law firm that I worked for, the real estate department was the breadwinner of the firm. So that meant everyone had to work in the real estate department. We were, I say, attorney top heavy. So there were more attorneys than support staff. So because of that, as one of the newest attorneys there, I actually functioned as a closer, really as a pre-closer, a closer, and attorney. I actually worked in all three of those areas because of the fact that we were short on support staff. And so actually that was a great that was great for me in my learning process, not really understanding it at the time, but accepting it, because then I learned every aspect of it. So when I eventually went out on my own, I was already with a couple of title companies, but one title company in particular, Chicago Title, they were reaching out to the new attorneys who were recently approved with them, and they offered to provide training. Barbara was one of the underwriting attorneys at the time, and she kind of took me under her wing. And as I got my deals, I would take the deals to her office, and she would actually train me on how to review the title, what we're looking for, and what we're expected to do. So it's not just reviewing the title and writing down everything that's wrong, with the title. It's also actually actively investigating, paying off the mortgages, paying off the judgments, making sure that these judgments are the clients, because many judgments are in the names of people who have the same name. And so the judgment may pop up, but it may not be your client. So, doing that investigation, but actually cleaning the title. So they really, Chicago, and I am still with them to this day, they really helped in my training in this area. So then as time went on, I went from an approved attorney to an agency. They offered an agency to me. And then we've been pretty much right there ever since.
Well, they must have seen some good work in you, and good on them for doing that. What would you say would be your like shining moment, right? You're in a field that is not, you don't see this on television, right? They don't usually make movies about your field. So what is it like, and what would you say would be your, like, maybe your most proud moment or shining moment in the field?
So one of the things about real estate, it's one of the areas of law that probably turns over the quickest. You're looking at a 30 to 60 day process on average. I mean, sometimes some are shorter, some may be longer, dealing, depending on what is actually going on. But it's also mostly it's a happy time. People are purchasing their homes for the first time. People are selling their homes and being able to pull out that equity that they have been, building up for several years. And so there are a lot of situations that I feel very proud of, being a part of people's lives, when they're making those major decisions or major milestones in their life. And I really appreciate it when people come back to me, after years. They say, you did my closing on my first house, and we appreciated you then, and we wanted to come back to you because now we're selling and now we're buying the next one. So I feel really good about that. And then I also feel good about situations that we've been able to keep clients from. I had a situation where a client was selling a home, and this individual was out of the country as far as we were communicated to us. And so because of the policies and the procedures that we have in place, we were able to avoid this client being defrauded, because the monies that was being put into escrow were actually fraudulent documents. But the policies and procedures that we had in place were able to, fret that out and, protect the client as well as ourselves. So being able to do that to protect our clients and then also just being able to advise. We had one client who had spent quite a bit of money on some land, had been taking care of the land. Thankfully, we were not the closing attorney when he purchased the land. However, when he came to us, we did the construction loan on the property. And it wasn't until after the construction loan that he realized that the land that he was thinking was his was never his the whole time.
Wow.
He basically, he purchased a lot here. The sign was on the corner. He thought he was getting that piece. He didn't have a survey done at the time of purchase, so he did not have a clear idea of what he was actually purchasing. But we were, able to basically kind of advise him so that he can get out of that loan and turn that over into another, parlay that into another situation. And then a similar situation happened with another client where they had purchased some land and come to find out that the original seller, they had left a part of the legal description off the deed. And so they didn't have all of the land. And so we were able to negotiate that situation, even though the seller was at first, not wanting to cooperate. But then once we communicated to them, say, hey, you basically did false advertising because based on your address, which you sold him is not even on that address because you left that part of the legal description off. So, after they realized, that could be considered, fraudulent activity, they were willing to go ahead and sign the proper documentation needed to transfer it over.
Now, you think that was that intentional?
No, I don't think it was intentional. I think it was probably some sort of error on behalf of whoever prepared the warranty deed, because sometimes those legal you may have two, a parcel 1 and a parcel 2, and I think what it is they left off that second meets and bounds legal description is what they left out, and they may have just looked over it and not realized that they done. But it was the most important part because it was the part that had access to the road.
My goodness. Okay. Well, yeah, this is really stuff. I'm out of time. I'm way over time right now. But I guess the long story short is whenever you're buying a property or doing anything with property, make sure you get a good attorney. And I would venture to say, make sure you reach out to the Green Law Firm and make sure you close it well, and you got the title policy on it, and do everything you can to get folks who are going to protect your interests. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely agree with that. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you've made some time to be on the show. I appreciate working with you and the whole team at the Green Law Firm. Anything you want to share? What last thought on this NAR business? I want to leave in your take on that. Do you think that's going to impact your work at all, or what do you think? How do you think it's going to impact the field?
So, like I said, it's not going to impact us per se directly, because we basically close the transaction based on how the contracts are drafted. And and most times, we're getting that commission split agreement between the brokers or the realtors, communicating to us exactly where that commission split is going to go. So it's not going to impact us. We're going to follow along based on where the law says that we have to go. But it is interesting how, they can make sure that this doesn't impact the buying market. Many buyers, they rely, on the seller taking care of that part, of the commission because of, the cost associated with purchasing the house. Many of them have to bring a minimum of 3% and that sort of thing. It may impact whether or not, that seller agrees to, pay those closing costs. A lot of times sellers agree to pay 3%. And if they are in a position where they don't have to, or they're in a position to kind of move that around, and that sort of thing, they don't have to pay the 6 and the 3. I don't know how that's going to impact the buying market and those who are, in a position to move forward with a transaction. But I guess we'll see. We will. How it actually, once the settlement is made, because like you said, it's right now it's under settlement negotiation, or this is a proposal. Once they finalize what it's going to be and then put it into actual application, then we'll be able to see what kind of impact it's going to have.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see for sure. So we
Absolutely.
appreciate you being on the show and shedding some light on this real estate practice. And appreciate you being on the show before. You're a guest and a friend of Apex, and we're glad to have you. We'll see you next time, and glad you appreciate you taking the time for us today.
All right. Thank you, Brandon.
All right, friends, we'll be right back with a wellness check. All right, friends, we're back. It's now time for our wellness check. The wellness check this week is connect with nature. Whether you're hunting or fishing responsibly, of course, letting your feet touch the ocean water, or spending time in the mountains, or boating on the pond or the lake, taking a walk in the park, take time to connect with nature. Be reminded of this wonderful big world that we live in. When you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, there's nothing like good old Mother Nature to remind us of how small we are in comparison to this big world. How small then are the things causing us stress and anxiety? They're even smaller. So connect with nature. That's your wellness check. Remember to live in peace and not pieces. We'll be right back with the Apex Highlight. All right, friends, we're back. It's now time for our Apex Highlight. I'm excited to chat with my colleague, my friend, Mr. Mareco Knoxs. He's better known as Rico. He's a real estate agent who uses his extensive operations background and client-centered approach to help his clients navigate the complexities of home ownership and real estate investing. Rico, thanks for making time. Welcome to Lawyerish. Oh, you're on mute, friend. Come off mute. You don't want to talk today.
I do want to talk. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for being here so much. I really appreciate you. Tell us, let's jump right into it. How did you get into real estate?
How did I get into real estate? Well, in about 2018, I jumped into a class with Fortune Builders and joined their program. And I started out as an investor through that program. But as far as it relates to becoming a realtor, I did that probably 2022.
Okay.
And I have been rocking and rolling ever since.
So you got in as an investor, and now you're wheeling and dealing as well. Now you're helping people get to their homes. What do you love about it? What is it that you love about real estate? We've kind of talked a little bit about it personally, but why don't you tell the people what do you love about this business?
What I love about real estate, power that it has to change lives. As far as being a realtor, the biggest thing that I love is seeing people get to the closing table, whether that's for their dream or for a property that they're investing in. One of the things that I've been blessed to be able to do is to teach people how to become investors or to get their first homes. So that's what I love about it. I love the opportunity to help someone improve their life and to build generational wealth.
Well, you're certainly right about the impact of real estate, right? It really can change lives. It's kind of why we're kind of focused on that this episode is real estate is so important to wealth building and to housing security and so many other things. And you're, as an agent, you're right in the middle of that. And so can you talk a little bit about what it is you do? So for somebody who hasn't gone through the process before, why is it important to have an agent?
Basically, I'm your advocate. I'm gonna fight for you in every which way that looks like. We have a client now that we're working with that's closing Friday. We're gonna go ahead and say that he's closing Friday, but it has been a bit of a journey getting him to that process because there were some things that came up because he's getting a new home built. And that's a totally different process when you're building a house from ground up and then not having to be in the city or the state where the home is being built. So I've had to be everything boots on the ground for this particular client. So basically, I'm your advocate. I'm gonna fight for you to get to that closing table. My goal is once you give me your vision and lay it out, I'm gonna make sure that we accomplish it.
Yeah, and I've seen that in full effect. You're a real bulldog when it comes to it. You don't play about your clients, and I'm talking about emails and phone calls. You're just on top of it. I commend you for that. I love to see that, and your passion and your commitment to excellence really comes through in everything that you do. I love that. It's truly inspiring, and one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I love the compliments. You don't have to stop.
Okay.
All
All right. Now, what would you say? What would you say is your best moment? And what would you say in the field? I mean, it's been a not an extensive, not a long career, but what would you say in your short career? It's been a good career. It's been good to you. What would you say has been your best moment, and what would you say might have been your most teachable moment? What did you when you learned something?
Real estate. That's every day. Every day
Yeah.
I've been learning something since I started with it in 2018. But my biggest moment when I really understood that real estate was a way to wealth was probably one of my first investment deals. I'm gonna say one from the investment side and then one from being a realtor. I was able to do a project with a property subject to from an employee that I had from my old career. She didn't want her house anymore. Um, and I was able to help her kind of get out of the home because she had gotten married and wanted to move in with her husband. And she was just like, I don't want it. And I was like, please keep your house. Please keep your house. After begging her to keep it, I ended up talking to one of my mentors and he was like, find out what she wants for it. Find out what she wants for her home. And then we'll flip it into a deal. And this deal became something where I was able to get in and do my first project as a rehab, and then turn around and sell it for a profit. And that's when I learned that real estate is an amazing vehicle. Like I heard the young lady that was on earlier talking about the different avenues that you can go down to make money.
Yeah, Kaye
There's
Thompson.
one way to make money in real estate.
Mhm.
And fixing and flipping is one of them, buying and holding. So it led to all of that. I own a couple Airbnbs as well. So that's those are my proudest moments as an investor.
Yeah, man, you got money. Okay, and and what else?
You said that. I didn't say that. I got bills. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, that's a thing.
No, you could definitely make a decent amount of money in real estate. But as far as a realtor, proud moment, definitely just getting the client to the closing table. And and that journey is because you asked, what do you learn? Where have I learned that? Just that journey from once you get the client to go on the contract with you, whether they list with you or buy with you, and getting them to that closing table with Miss Green is is the goal. It's the goal,
Yeah.
and it is the happiest moment every time that it happens.
So let me ask this NAR business. You heard us talking about that. You probably know a little bit about that. The National Association of Realtors settlement that's happening. It seems that as an agent, it might be someone who that impacts the most. Can you just talk to what this proposed settlement, what you're thinking about that? How are you preparing if things change? What's going through your head around that?
Right now, nothing. Honestly, because it's so much that's still up in the air about it. Everybody
Yeah.
is prepping us and getting us ready for it. We had a meeting last week at our brokerage about it, and nothing right now has per se changed. But we know changes are coming, and we're getting prepared for it. Like I think her name was Kaye. She said,
Yeah. Okay.
"No, we have to do a better job at selling ourselves. We've always had to sell ourselves." And becoming a realtor, because I was on the other side as an investor, and I'm like, why am I paying them 6% or 3% to do this? That was me. Until I got on this side, and it takes so much to get a deal from start to close. It is a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes that the regular Joe person doesn't see. Regular people don't see all the work that goes in behind the scenes to get you to that closing table. And that's our job.
Yeah.
So, but as far as the NAR thing goes, the biggest thing that I think we're going to have to do a better job at is just educating the sellers, because they have to know that if they want their house to move, even though we can't put commissions into the MLS and things of that nature anymore, if they want their house to move, they're going to have to pay a buyer's commission, because that's usually how we get things done. Someone is going to bring me a buyer. Some of my marketing is about bring me a buyer. And if we take away that element, how are we going to get it there? So I still think the rules may change, but the game probably will continue to be the same.
Okay. Well, we're going to see. I mean, it's going to be really interesting. And you're right. I mean, I guess it does make sense that at the moment, nothing is changing, because it's a proposed settlement. There's so many things that hang in the balance. And so we just don't know what's going on yet. So,
and the buyer it's just so crazy that we're even here, because she mentioned something that I've always thought about doing a transaction. Is the buyer is the one paying for it, really, if we really look at it, because it's coming out of their loan. So, yeah,
well, all right. Well, more to come on that, I suppose. I'm running out of time here. What counsel do you have for maybe your younger professional self, or some other person who's maybe interested in getting into real estate, or who's a new agent, or maybe going through like real estate school or something like that? I'm interested to know what counsel you have for someone or for others who may be listening who might want to get into the field.
That is a really good question, especially to the younger self. And then if you're already in the class or whatever, taking the class, is to just go ahead and do it. Because when I was younger, I was interested in real estate, because I bought my house when I was kind of young. I think before 25. I can't remember how old it was, but I was in my 20s, and I was interested in real estate, but I didn't really understand it. Didn't really have a mentor or anybody that could introduce me into the game. And I really wish, especially for the young people, if I could go back and do it again, I would definitely have jumped into real estate 20 years ago.
So don't belabor. That's going to be your counsel.
My counsel is just do it. If you're thinking about it, if you're on the fence, that's Nike's slogan. But yes, it works in this moment. Just do it.
It does.
Just do it.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. All right. Well said. I appreciate you for sharing that. Now, let me ask, how can people find you if they're interested in maybe retaining your services? How do they reach you?
On social, you can get at me at Rico Do Real Estate, as is notated on this screen, or you can call me. Well, really, I prefer text. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Okay.
It's better for you to text me 901-500-1750. But I do answer calls too.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of real estate agent that you are. You're putting your information out there. You're attainable. You're reachable. You're a fighter. You're an advocate. It's impressive to see. And you're already going places. You're at places. We already know you got money, and you're on your way to getting some more.
Absolutely,
getting people in.
I receive all of that.
Absolutely. Thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate you spending some time and sharing some knowledge with us. Maybe we'll have you come back and give us some updates if you got some new things on the horizon.
For sure.
All right, friends. Hold what you got. It's now time for our motivational moment. All right, for our motivational moment today, I want to remind you that sometimes when it feels like your life is falling apart, it's really just falling into place. Friends, I listened to a message recently called "The Undoing" by Sarah Jakes. She's a daughter of T.D. Jakes, and she talked about the undoing. And talked about how in order to get to the place of promise, sometimes we got to undo some things that have got us bound. We've got to loose the things that got us bound. And so just remember, when you feel like things are falling apart, they are probably just, and they are just, if you trust God, they're falling into place. So just trust. A fall never killed anybody, believe it or not. It's not the fall that kills you. It's the impact and whether or not you get up and what you do after that. So you may fall, but you also may fall right into to exactly where you're supposed to be. That's your motivational moment today. We'll be right back to wrap things up.
College, but check a form and it was was down and I'm on. Didn't meet what she along, and it's me that she calling. Pussy sweet like honey.
Well, friends, we've done it again. That's another episode in the books. This is episode 4 of season 3. I'd like to thank my guest, Kaye Thompson, with that special duly noted, and Angela Green and Lawyerish, and Rico Knoxs, our Apex highlight today. Our Voyage Vibe is brought to us again by Mr. Poppy Rose de Lima. Great song written by our good friend, Mr. Dennis Johnson, aka Slashby. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Just like any voyage, it's a little bit more fun if you can bring a friend or two along. Lawyers is brought to you by Apex, where aptitude meets excellence. And we're powered by the Green Law Firm, your one-stop shop for everything real estate in Tennessee and Mississippi. This has been a special long episode on real estate today. Thanks to all my guests, and thank you for listening and for watching. We'll see you next time, friends. Appreciate you.
Oh, na 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 na, got our toes in the sand and we run till the sun comes out. Sun comes out.